On the night I thought my fiancé was working late, a video of him kissing his secretary spread through every phone in the city. The man I gave 9 years of my life to chose betrayal over love. And when he begged, I slapped him and walked away. He thought I'd crumble, but instead I rose stronger. The bass shook the floor like an earthquake, each beat pulsing up through my heels and rattling in my chest. The bar was alive, neon lights flashing, the scent of alcohol mixing with perfume and cigarette smoke, laughter and shouts carrying over the music. It was supposed to be my night. My last night as single Claire Dawson, though I hadn't felt single in nearly a decade. Tomorrow I was supposed to stand in front of 2 families, dressed in an expensive gown, hand in hand with Ryan Parker, and promise forever. Instead, I sat in a booth with a half-melted cocktail in my hand, smiling mechanically while my friends screamed the lyrics to whatever pop anthem was blasting from the speakers. Julia Harris, my best friend, clinked her glass against mine with the force of someone determined to make me drink. "Come on, Claire," she shouted over the music. "It's your bachelorette. You should be dancing on tables, not sulking like some corporate widow." I forced a laugh, lifting my glass. "I'm not sulking. I'm just pacing myself." Julia rolled her eyes dramatically. "Pacing? Babe, you're getting engaged tomorrow, not running a marathon. Loosen up." The girls around us whooped in agreement, tossing back shots. They wanted me reckless, wild, euphoric. And maybe I should have been. Ryan Parker, tall, handsome, successful Ryan Parker, had been my boyfriend since I was 19. 9 years. Tomorrow we were supposed to make it official. Everyone said I was lucky. My mother said it the most. But as I watched Julia disappear onto the dance floor with 2 other girls, my smile slipped. My phone buzzed again in my clutch. I pulled it out, heart giving a little leap. Maybe it was Ryan. It was. "Don't stay out too late. Big day tomorrow. Love you." My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type, "Where are you?" He'd said he was stuck at the office working late. But when I called earlier, he'd hung up before I could even get a full sentence out. Ryan never did that. Not once in 9 years. I typed and erased 3 different replies before finally slipping the phone back into my clutch. Trust. That was what relationships were built on. That was what tomorrow was supposed to be about. So why did my chest feel so tight? I excused myself from the booth, weaving through the dancers until I found the restroom. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unflattering. I gripped the edge of the sink and stared at my reflection. My makeup was perfect. Lipstick intact, eyeliner sharp. My hair curled just the way the stylist had promised for the big day. On the outside I was glowing, exactly the kind of woman who should be over the moon. But the eyes staring back at me were tired. Wary. Cold water splashed across my cheeks as I tried to wash away the unease. Maybe it was just nerves. Engagement was a big deal. My life was about to change. It was natural to feel on edge. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Ryan. It was a WeChat moment posted by one of his cousins. A casual check-in at another bar 2 blocks away. The neon sign in the background looked familiar. I had seen it outside when Julia dragged us here tonight. Something in my gut twisted. I shouldn't have cared. Ryan said he was working. But why would his cousin be at a bar so close? And why had Ryan hung up on me earlier? Before I could talk myself out of it, my heels were already clicking against the pavement. The night air was cooler than inside the club, sharp against my skin. I walked fast, clutching my phone like it could anchor me. The second bar was louder, darker, crowded with bodies pressed together in sweaty abandon. I pushed through the mass of people, eyes scanning, and then froze. There he was. Ryan Parker. My fiancé. He wasn't at the office. He wasn't working overtime. He wasn't even on a client dinner. He was in a booth, one hand wrapped possessively around a young woman's waist, his lips locked with hers in a kiss so deep it made bile rise in my throat. She was pretty. No, she was young. Her long dark hair tumbled down her back, her skin flushed with intoxication and excitement. She clutched at Ryan like he was oxygen. And Ryan, the man who had whispered promises to me, the man who had proposed on our 9th anniversary, the man I was supposed to marry tomorrow, kissed her like I never existed. My chest hollowed out. I pulled out my phone. My hand didn't tremble as I tapped record. The camera zoomed in, capturing Ryan's lips devouring hers, the way his hand slid down her back, the smile that curved his mouth when she giggled. I hit stop. And then I dialed his number. The phone rang once. Twice. He hung up. Seconds later, a message appeared. Babe, what's wrong? I'm working overtime. Don't overthink. My lips twisted into a bitter smile. Overtime? I muttered. Sure. I opened the Parker family group chat. His parents, his uncles, aunts, cousins, all of them had been buzzing for weeks about tomorrow. My mother had been bragging so loudly I thought she might burst. Without hesitation, I attached the video. Then the screenshots of his message. And then I typed, "Everyone, the engagement between Ryan Parker and me is officially cancelled. Please don't contact me again." And I tagged them all. Every single one. And for a moment the world went silent. My heart pounded in my ears. And then the replies came flooding in. Ryan's youngest cousin, always the fastest to type, commented first. "Holy crap, is this free to watch?" Another message. "Sis-in-law, did you send this to the wrong group?" Then another. "This kind of clip should be private, not in the family group." Wait, at Ryan Parker? Why does that guy look so much like him? My fingers flew. If he looks like him, that's because it is him. Then again, the engagement is cancelled. And then calmly I exited the group. I stood there for a moment, the glow of my phone screen fading as the night swallowed me. My lungs ached, but instead of suffocation I felt something sharp and clean, like air finally slicing through the fog. 9 years. Gone in seconds. But I wasn't the one who ended it. Ryan Parker had, with his lies, his arrogance, his betrayal. All I had done was refuse to cover it up. The music roared around me, strangers laughed and shouted, but all I heard was the pounding of my own heart. I slipped my phone back into my clutch and walked out of the bar. When I returned to my booth at the first club, Julia leaned across the table, frowning. "Claire, where have you been? You disappeared forever. Did you bump into someone?" I slid back into the seat, smoothing my dress like nothing had happened. "Yeah," I said softly, my lips curling into something sharp. "I did." She gave me a curious look, but before she could ask more, the girls burst back in, carrying another round of shots. The music drowned out everything. I raised my glass with the rest, forcing a smile. My phone was muted now, but I knew exactly what was happening. The family group chat was on fire. Ryan's name was probably being dragged through the digital mud by relatives who couldn't believe what they'd just seen. And Ryan himself? I almost laughed. He was probably too busy kissing the girl again to notice. For the first time in years, the thought didn't hurt. It felt like freedom. The bar had shifted by the time Julia slid another cocktail in front of me. The energy felt sharper, the laughter a little higher pitched, like everyone had collectively grown drunker in the 30 minutes since I'd dropped my bomb in the Parker family group chat. I hadn't looked back at my phone since. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what chaos I had unleashed. Julia leaned closer, raising her brows. "You've been weird all night. You're not even drinking. Did you and Ryan fight or something?" Julia's phone lit up on the table, buzzing with an incoming call. Ryan's name flashed across the screen. She blinked, startled, then glanced at me. Do you want me to answer it?" I said flatly. She put it on speaker. Ryan's voice crackled through, frantic. "Claire, babe, where are you? Please let me explain." I reached across the table and tapped end call. Julia's jaw dropped. "Claire." He sounded desperate. "Are you really not going to talk to him?" My lips curved into something cold. This was supposed to be my bachelorette party. Let him go to hell. Julia stared at me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe she didn't. Even I barely recognized the steel in my own voice. I stood, smoothing my dress. "I'm leaving." "Claire." Julia reached for me. I shook my head. "I'll be fine. Stay. Enjoy the night." For a moment she looked like she wanted to argue. But when she saw my face, the calm, unshakable calm, she let her hand drop. Outside, the night air was cooler, damp with the faint smell of rain. My heels clicked against the pavement as I hailed a cab. For the first time all night my chest felt light. Not healed, not whole, but free. By the time I got home it was past 1 in the morning. The hallway lights flickered on as I stepped out of the elevator. And there he was. Ryan Parker. He was leaning against my apartment door, phone in one hand, shoulders tense. The moment he saw me, he straightened, relief flooding his face. "Claire," he breathed, striding forward. "Thank God. Where have you been? I called you 100 times. Your phone was off. Why do you smell like alcohol?" "Careful, let me." I shoved his hand away. "Don't touch me. You're disgusting." He froze, his face tightening like I'd slapped him. Claire, listen to me. This is just a misunderstanding. Who sent you that video? Whoever it was, they have bad intentions. They're trying to break us up. I laughed, a sound sharp enough to cut glass. Who sent it? I stepped closer, my heels clicking against the tile. I took the video, Ryan. I was standing right behind you. You were so busy with your little toy you didn't even notice. His face drained of all color. He opened his mouth but no sound came out. The nausea that had been building since the bar surged violently. I pushed past him, fumbling with my keys, and barely made it to the bathroom before I was vomiting into the toilet. My body heaved uncontrollably, bile burning my throat. Behind me, I heard him hover in the doorway. Claire. His voice was soft now, pitiful. He crouched, holding out tissues with trembling hands. Here, wipe your mouth. Let me get you some tea. I didn't take the tissue. A moment later, I heard him moving around the kitchen, cupboards slamming as he scrambled. The sound of water boiling. The clink of a cup. He was rushing like a man trying to undo the undoable. When I finally lifted my head, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand, I staggered to my feet. Ryan appeared again, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled, eyes wide with panic. Claire, he whispered. Please. Just hear me out. It was a mistake. I was drunk. She kissed me first. You know I'd never. Stop. My voice was hoarse but steady. You can spin lies all you want for your family. But not for me. I heard you. You can't talk your way out of this. He flinched like I'd struck him. The apartment felt suffocating, the air heavy with his presence. I shoved past him into the living room, collapsing on the couch. My head throbbed, my chest tight. Ryan followed, setting a steaming cup of tea on the coffee table with trembling hands. For a long moment he just stood there, staring at me with eyes that begged, pleaded, threatened to drown me in memories of better days. Claire, he said finally, his voice breaking. When you've calmed down, let's talk properly. Please. I shut my eyes. Out. He didn't move. I opened my eyes, met his gaze, and said it again, sharper this time. Get out. A long silence. Then he turned, shoulders slumped, and walked to the door. The lock clicked softly behind him. The apartment was quiet again. Too quiet. I curled up on the couch, still in my dress, my heels kicked off onto the rug. My body trembled, exhaustion and rage colliding until I couldn't tell which weighed heavier. Ryan Parker was no longer my fiancé. He was just a man who had wasted 9 years of my life. The doorbell rang like a gunshot. I was lying half-curled on the couch, still in yesterday's dress, hair tangled, my body aching from exhaustion. The tea Ryan had left sat cold and untouched on the coffee table, the faint crack of light from the blinds slicing the apartment into cruel strips of mourning. When the doorbell rang again, more insistent, I knew exactly who it was. I didn't move fast enough before the door flew open. Margaret Dawson never waited for an invitation. My mother stormed inside, her perfume filling the room before her voice even did. Claire Dawson, what the hell are you doing? She shoved past me, heels clicking against the hardwood, her designer purse thrown onto the sofa like it had been personally insulted. Her face was flushed, her lips painted in that shade of red she always wore when she wanted to look commanding. I sat up slowly, pressing a hand against my throbbing temples. Morning to you too, Mom. Don't you mourning me? She whirled on me, eyes blazing. Do you realize what you've done? Announcing to the entire Parker family group chat that you've canceled your engagement? Do you know how humiliating that is for me? I rubbed my eyes, exhaustion weighing me down. Did you even watch the video? She waved her manicured hand dismissively. Video shitio. Ryan was entertaining clients. That's his job, Claire. Do you think men in his position just sit at home twiddling their thumbs? They have responsibilities. My lips curled. Responsibilities that involve shoving his tongue down some girl's throat? Her face darkened. Don't you dare talk like that. You sit at home all day with your easy little office job. You don't understand what men like Ryan go through to build a business. He's under pressure. There are situations. And you, instead of being supportive, she jabbed her finger toward me, you treat marriage like it's some kind of performance. Calling it off just like that. Do you even know how childish you sound? I laughed. Sharp, bitter, humorless. Childish? I caught him cheating, Mom. With my own eyes. And you're calling me childish. Don't start with this nonsense. She crossed her arms, her chin tilting up. Ryan Parker runs a huge company. He's handsome, educated, comes from money. He could marry anyone he wants. He chose you. And you repay him by humiliating him in front of his entire family. Something twisted painfully in my chest, but it wasn't guilt. It was rage. Humiliating him? I hissed. He did that to himself. I only showed the truth. Margaret's voice rose, sharp as glass. You're 28, Claire. 28. Do you think men like Ryan are lined up waiting for you? You think you'll find someone better now? Wake up. Her words didn't surprise me. They slid off like water on stone. She had always measured life in terms of men. What man you landed, what man could provide. Her tolerance for betrayal, for humiliation had no bottom line. But I wasn't her. I opened my mouth to retort when a wave of nausea surged through me, vicious and sudden. I bolted past her, barely making it to the bathroom in time. My body convulsed, bile burning my throat as I gripped the toilet. Behind me, her voice carried down the hall. See? This is what happens when you eat junk food all the time, stay up late and don't take care of yourself. Always making me worry. And now this. Breaking off an engagement over nothing. I wiped my mouth, the taste bitter, the words worse. When I emerged, she was pacing the living room, muttering to herself about invitations already sent out, relatives already informed. He spun on me again. You think life is some kind of fairy tale? You think men are perfect? Newsflash, Claire, they're not. But Ryan Parker is as good as it gets. Handsome, rich, attentive. If you let him go, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I leaned against the doorway, my body weak but my voice steady. If you like him so much, Mom, why don't you make him your godson? Her eyes widened in outrage. Her hand lifted, ready to slap me. I didn't flinch. But before her palm could land, another wave of nausea hit me. I staggered back into the bathroom, slamming the door shut with my foot. Her shouting filtered through the wood. You're ungrateful. You don't respect yourself. You're throwing away the best thing that ever happened to you. Ryan Parker could have any woman he wants. Younger, prettier. And you'll be the one who loses out. I slid down the cold tile wall, pulling my knees to my chest, wrapping my arms around them. My body shook with silent sobs I refused to let her hear. Ryan Parker wasn't what my mother thought he was. He wasn't some prize who had fallen into my lap. He was my first love. We met when I was 19, still under my mother's suffocating rules. Rules that didn't allow me to even talk to boys. He had been persistent, relentless, chasing me through every no, every refusal. I had thought he was the exception. On our 9th anniversary he kissed me softly, then pulled a diamond ring from his pocket. The 10th year will be our first wedding anniversary. Claire, will you marry me? I should have said no. Dad, I said yes. Because he had told me I was his first love, his first kiss, his first night. He had promised me forever. Now the image of him kissing Emily Summers in that bar replayed in my mind like a curse. I closed my eyes, a bitter laugh escaping. The person who was supposed to grow old with you, Ryan, was supposed to be me. So who the hell was she? When I emerged again, my mother was still pacing, still ranting, her words circling like vultures. She pleaded, she bargained, she demanded. But when she saw that I wasn't giving in, that my face was set like stone, she grabbed her purse and stormed out in a fury, the door slamming behind her. The silence that followed was heavier than her shouts. I collapsed back onto the couch, my body hollow, my soul raw. Margaret Dawson could tolerate anything from a man. But I couldn't. And that was the difference between us. For the next 2 days my apartment became a coffin. I didn't open the curtains. I didn't answer my phone. I didn't check messages, didn't touch social media. I lay on the couch like a dead thing, staring at the ceiling until my eyes blurred. Ryan didn't show up. My mother didn't return. Silence pressed against the walls like a weight, broken only by the occasional car honking on the street below. I thought maybe the quiet would help. Maybe I'd feel something like peace. But it wasn't peace. It was numbness, and numbness was worse. It let the memories creep in unguarded. Ryan's hands on my waist. Ryan's lips on hers. My phone buzzing in my palm as he texted me lies, working overtime, while he tasted someone else. By Monday I couldn't stand it anymore. My body felt brittle from lying still too long. I forced myself into the shower, pulled on a pressed blouse, and went to work as if nothing had happened. When I walked into the office, heads turned. "So where's the engagement, Candy?" one of my colleagues teased, smiling expectantly. The air caught in my throat, but I forced a calm smile. Actually, the engagement's been cancelled. Let me treat you to coffee at lunch instead. Her face reddened instantly. Oh, sorry. I didn't know. Are you okay? I nodded. I'm fine. That was the script I stuck to all morning. Fine. I was fine. I typed emails. I sorted files. I prepared for the weekly meeting. But during lunch break, whispers floated from the break room. Did you hear? Claire called off her engagement. Just like that. But her fiancé is so handsome. And I heard his family's loaded. You think he cheated? Don't spread rumors. I met him once. Remember that storm last year when no one could get a ride? He showed up in the pouring rain to pick her up. Got out of the car drenched but held the umbrella over her the whole time. They seemed really in love. Then what happened? I don't know. But it's not like Claire was the one cheating. She's dependable. Maybe a little cold but kind. You can always count on her. I stood outside the doorway holding my coffee, listening to every word without moving. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march in there and say, yes, he cheated. Yes, he lied. Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. But instead I turned, carried my coffee back to my desk and continued typing. Composure. That was all I had left. By the time I left the office, the sky had turned to steel. A drizzle had already started, coating the streets in a slick sheen. I stepped onto the sidewalk and dug through my bag. No umbrella. For years I hadn't carried one. I hadn't needed to. Ryan always had one in his car, always pulling up outside the office just as the rain began, holding it above my head with that smile that made me feel like I was the luckiest woman alive. Habit. Reliance. Love. I slung my bag over my shoulder and stepped into the drizzle anyway. I'd barely taken 2 steps when the rain above me vanished. A hand gripped my arm. I froze. Claire. Ryan Parker stood beside me, rainwater soaking his hair, his suit clinging to his body. He held an umbrella over me, his other hand still gripping my arm. His eyes were fixed on me, desperate, pleading. The rain's getting worse. Let me take you home. I yanked my arm free. Don't touch me. He flinched but followed as I turned toward the subway station. Claire, please. You'll get sick walking in the rain. Even if you're mad at me, don't hurt yourself. Just take the umbrella. Go away, I snapped. Please. His voice cracked. Let me explain. That night Shut up. I whirled on him, my voice sharp enough to make strangers nearby glance over. The rain plastered my hair to my face, my clothes heavy against my skin. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't believe a single word you say. Do you hear me? Stay away from me. The words ripped out of me raw and jagged. My throat burned, my chest heaved. Around us, people waiting for rides stared. Some whispered, some turned away awkwardly. Ryan just stood there, his umbrella trembling in his hand, his lips moving like he wanted to say my name but no sound came out. Seeing him like that didn't give me satisfaction. It only suffocated me more. I shoved past him, the umbrella slipping from his grip, clattering onto the wet pavement. A gust of wind dragged it down the street, tumbling like a broken wing. Rain drenched him, his expensive suit clinging to his body. He looked as miserable as I felt. But I didn't look back. When I finally stumbled into my apartment, I was soaked to the bone, my body trembling. I stripped off my wet clothes and collapsed under hot water, but the shivering wouldn't stop. By nightfall, my nose was stuffy, my head heavy. I downed 2 cold pills and crawled into bed. I had barely closed my eyes when my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, until the voice on the other end screamed my name. Claire Dawson, you ungrateful girl. How dare you block me? Do you know what's happened? My mother's voice. Sharp, hysterical. Mom. Ryan. Ryan tried to slit his wrists. He's in the ER right now at City First Hospital. Get over here now. The room spun. I sat up, my breath caught in my throat, the rain still hammering against the windows like the world itself wanted to drown me. The fluorescent glow of the ER sign burned into my eyes as I stumbled out of the cab. My chest felt tight, my breath uneven, and my clothes clung damp from the rain that hadn't stopped since evening. The hospital doors slid open, and before I could even steady myself, a hand seized my arm. Margaret Dawson. My mother's nails dug into my skin as she shook my arm like it was her personal punching bag. Her face was flushed with fury, her hair pinned too tightly, her lipstick bleeding at the edges from shouting. "Are you out of your mind?" she hissed, her voice shrill enough to turn heads in the waiting room. "I've been calling you nonstop and you blocked me too. If I hadn't borrowed a nurse's phone, I wouldn't even know where you were. And now look at this mess." Her words rained down on me like blows. I tried to pull my arm free. "Mom." She tightened her grip. "Ryan's parents are flying back from overseas. Everything's in chaos. He's lying in there because of you. If something happens to him, how do you expect to clean this up?" A dull ache radiated down my arm where she kept pounding it. My gaze lifted to the glowing red emergency room sign above the double doors. My stomach twisted not with guilt but with irritation so sharp it made me snap. "Mom, do you wish it were me lying in there instead?" Her hand froze mid-air. Her eyes widened, stunned for a moment. Then her lips thinned, fury building again. She raised her hand as if to strike me, but before she could, another voice cut through the tension. "Miss Dawson." We both turned. Sarah Collins, Ryan's assistant, stood there in her neatly pressed blouse, her usually composed face drawn tight with fatigue and worry. Her voice was professional, but her eyes flicked toward me with something almost like pity. "Mr. Parker is still in critical care. Earlier this evening he left a meeting suddenly without informing me. I called multiple times but he didn't answer. Around 7 I brought urgent documents to his house. The butler said he had returned soaked from the rain and gone straight to his room. When he didn't respond to knocks, I had a bad feeling. We forced the lock. That's when we found him." Her tone was matter-of-fact but the words fell like stones. I stood silently, staring at her. My chest hollowed out but not with grief. Only disbelief. So he'd come home drenched from following me in the rain. Locked himself in. And then what? Opened his wrists like it was my punishment to bear? My lips curled into something sharp and bitter. So this is what it's come to? He betrays me and when I refuse to play along he decides to bleed all over the floor? That's supposed to make me feel responsible? Sarah faltered, caught between duty and discomfort. Margaret exploded. "Claire Dawson. How can you laugh right now? Ryan's still in surgery. You two were together for years. Was any of that love real? Even a one-day marriage carries 100 days of grace. And you're heartless." Her voice cracked through the sterile air, drawing stares from nurses and patients alike. I crouched, covering my face with both hands, my shoulders trembling. For a moment I let her think I was breaking down. Then I looked up at her with a faint smile. "Mom, do you actually want me to marry him? Or are you hoping to marry him yourself? Because honestly it sounds like you love him more than I ever did." Her face drained of color, then flushed red in fury. "Claire. And if he dies today," I added, my voice sharp as glass, "would you expect me to die with him too?" Her hand trembled in the air, ready to slap me again, but when she saw the tears streaming down my face she let it drop. The ER doors burst open. Doctors wheeled out a stretcher. Ryan lay on it, ghostly pale, his lips drained of color, thick white bandages wrapped around both wrists. His eyes were closed, his body limp. The smell of antiseptic clung to him, mixed with the faint iron of blood. "He lost a lot of blood," the doctor said briskly. "But he was found in time. The wounds were stitched and he'll recover. 2 days under observation. Make sure he rests." He turned and walked away. I stayed rooted to the spot, staring at Ryan's face. Once, that face had been the center of my world. Now it was just hollow. Empty. Nothing stirred in me. Not love. Not pity. Not even hate. Just exhaustion. I turned to leave. But I didn't make it 2 steps before a blur of motion slammed into me from the side. I stumbled, my lower back hitting the edge of a bench, pain shooting up my spine. "Watch where you're going." Margaret's voice snapped like a whip. I looked up. A girl stood there, wide-eyed, panicked. Her designer Chanel suit was creased, her hair falling into her face. She bowed repeatedly, voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just in a hurry. Where's Ryan? How is he? Please take me to him." My breath caught. Her face, cleaned up, no longer smeared with mascara, overlapped perfectly with the one I had seen in the bar. The girl who had tugged on Ryan's sleeve, crying. "Emily Summers." Margaret blinked, taken aback. She gave the girl a once-over, from her expensive outfit to her delicate features. Are you here to see my son-in-law? I don't think we've met. Are you his cousin? Emily shook her head quickly. Then who are you? Silence stretched. My chest went cold, my back still aching from the collision. I forced myself to stand, my voice like ice. Mom. She's not a stranger. She's the one Ryan was making out with at the bar. Margaret froze. Then her face twisted with rage. You. She lunged forward, grabbing a fistful of Emily's hair. So you're the shameless little homewrecker. The fox that ruined my daughter's engagement. May you never find peace, you slut. Emily screamed, clawing at Margaret's wrists. Nurses rushed forward. Sarah tried to pull them apart. The waiting room erupted in chaos. Shouting, swearing, the sound of scuffling heels on tile. I didn't stay to watch. While they tore into each other, I slipped quietly out of the suffocating hospital. The night air outside was cool, crisp, a balm against my overheated skin. For the longest time I couldn't understand. Why had Ryan cheated? Why, after getting caught, would he rather slit his wrists than face the truth? But standing there under the dark sky, I realized, it didn't matter. He had money. He had looks. He could find someone younger, prettier, more obedient. After 9 years, maybe he was just tired of me. So what? His choices were his. And for the first time I understood something simple. Whatever Ryan Parker chose to do with his life, it had nothing to do with me anymore. The morning after the hospital chaos, I woke up with the strangest sensation. Not emptiness this time, but clarity. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the faint buzz of city traffic seeping through the window. The memories of Margaret clawing Emily's hair, of Ryan pale and unconscious on the stretcher, flickered in my mind. For 9 years, Ryan Parker had been the sun around which my life revolved. Every plan, every decision, every thought of the future had been tethered to him. Now, the sun had gone out. But instead of plunging me into darkness, it left the sky wide open. I wasn't free of pain. No, the betrayal still throbbed like an exposed nerve. But for the first time I could see a horizon beyond him. 9 years. I'd wasted 9 years on a man who couldn't keep his lips off another woman. I wasn't about to waste a single day more. The next week I signed up for driving lessons. It was something I'd always postponed. Ryan had insisted I didn't need to learn. He loved driving me around, he'd said. And when he was busy, his driver or assistant would handle it. I'd accepted it, telling myself it was convenient. But standing in the DMV line, filling out forms under the flicker of harsh fluorescent lights, I felt like I was clawing back a piece of myself. The instructor looked at me skeptically. Never driven before? At your age. I lifted my chin. It's never too late. Outside of lessons, I began cooking simple meals again. Pasta tossed with garlic, pan-seared salmon, omelets that were sometimes too salty but mine, wholly mine. I jogged in the mornings, lungs burning, muscles aching, but each step shook loose the rust of the years I'd spent molded to Ryan's convenience. Julia, my best friend, came over often. She teased me mercilessly when I nearly set off the smoke alarm making pancakes. She dragged me to a pottery class and laughed until tears rolled down her face when my bowl collapsed into a clay pancake. Her laughter filled my apartment, chasing away the ghost of Ryan's presence. For the first time in years I laughed too. But Ryan wasn't finished. He showed up at my office one Thursday evening, waiting by the lobby with dark circles under his eyes. "Claire," he said as I stepped out of the elevator, his voice raw. "Can we talk?" I walked past him without a word. He followed. It wasn't what it looked like. "Emily, she doesn't mean anything to me. I was drunk, careless. It was a mistake." I stopped at the glass doors, turning to face him. My reflection in the pane looked calm, but my voice was ice. "Do you think I imagined the video? Do you think I imagined your lies about overtime while you had your tongue down her throat?" His jaw clenched. "I regret it every second. Claire, you're the only one I..." "Save it," I snapped. "You regret getting caught. That's all." I pushed through the doors and didn't look back. He tried again 2 days later. This time outside my apartment. I'd just returned from groceries, juggling 2 heavy bags, when I found him leaning against the railing by my door. "Claire, please." His voice was hoarse. His shirt was wrinkled as if he hadn't slept. "I'll do anything. Just don't end us like this." The bags dug into my palms. I set them down and unlocked my door, ignoring him. But as I tried to step inside, he reached out, gently catching my arm. That single touch broke me. I spun and slapped him across the face. The sound cracked in the hallway like a whip. Ryan's head snapped to the side, his cheek reddening instantly. His eyes widened, more in shock than pain. Claire. I cut him off, my voice trembling with fury. Do you know what I felt when I got that call from the hospital? When I saw you lying there with bandages on your wrists. He swallowed hard, guilt flickering in his gaze. I felt nothing, I hissed. Not pity, not fear, not even anger. If you had died that night, Ryan, I wouldn't have shed a single tear. His lips parted, but no words came out. Tears blurred my vision, but I held his gaze, my chest rising and falling like a storm tide. Don't ever touch me again, I said and slammed the door in his face. On the other side, I heard the faint thud of him sinking against the wall, followed by the muffled sound of him breaking down. But I didn't open the door. Not this time. Not ever again. A week later, I found myself in a different kind of waiting room. The doctor's office smelled of disinfectant and stale paper. I perched on the edge of a chair, my hands clenched in my lap. Miss Dawson, the doctor said gently, adjusting her glasses. Your blood work is back. You're about 6 weeks pregnant. The words detonated in my skull. Pregnant. Ryan's child. The room spun, the walls tilting. I gripped the edge of the chair to anchor myself. The doctor's voice continued, calm and steady. It's early. If you wish to continue, we'll schedule regular checkups. If you don't, we can discuss other options. Take your time, but don't wait too long to decide. I stumbled out into the parking lot like a sleepwalker. Pregnant. I pressed a hand to my stomach, half expecting to feel something. A heartbeat, a spark of life. But there was nothing. Just emptiness. If I had this child, I'd be tied to Ryan forever. To Margaret's suffocating control. To the weight of a family that already saw me as an accessory to their perfect son. I couldn't. I wouldn't. This wasn't about punishment or revenge or even grief anymore. This was about freedom. And I wasn't about to trade one set of chains for another. That night I sat at my desk staring at my calendar. My finger hovered over the date the doctor had circled. With steady hands I picked up my phone and scheduled the appointment. For the first time in weeks I exhaled. I was taking back my life. The first call came at 7 in the morning. My phone buzzed violently on the nightstand, dragging me from a shallow, restless sleep. The screen lit up with a name I'd stopped acknowledging weeks ago. Ryan. I turned it over, face down, and tried to drift back to sleep. But then came the second call. And the third. By the fifth attempt I silenced my phone completely. But when I finally checked my messages before work, the notifications stacked like bricks on my chest. Ryan, Claire, please just hear me out. Ryan, I know about the baby. Ryan, don't do this. Don't punish me like this. Punish me if you want, but don't punish the child. Ryan, I'll marry you tomorrow. I'll prove it. Just give me one more chance. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. So Margaret had told him. Of course she had. By lunchtime the chaos escalated. When I left the office, a small crowd had gathered on the sidewalk, their curious gazes focused on a man kneeling by the entrance. Ryan. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, his hair uncombed as if he hadn't bothered with appearances for once in his life. He knelt on the concrete, one knee pressed into the grime, his head bowed, his hands clasped like a supplicant in prayer. Claire, he called when he saw me. His voice was raw, carrying in the street air. Please don't do it. Please don't end the pregnancy. Every pair of eyes swung toward me. My coworkers. Strangers. Even a courier who had paused mid-delivery. Heat rushed to my face, but it wasn't shame. It was fury. I marched past him, heels clicking like gunfire. Get up, Ryan. He reached for my hand. I'll change. I'll give up everything else. Just don't take this away from me. From us. I yanked my hand free. There is no us. The words hit him harder than my slap ever had. His face crumpled, but I didn't stay to watch. That evening my mother barged into my apartment. I barely had time to take off my shoes before she shoved the door shut behind her, her eyes blazing. You wicked girl. Margaret spat. Do you even understand what you're doing? Do you think you can just erase the Parker bloodline like it's nothing? This is their first grandchild, Claire. And you want to murder it. My chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. It's my body. By choice. Her hand shot up, trembling with rage, but I caught her wrist midair before she could strike me. Enough, I said coldly. You didn't raise this child. You didn't feel Ryan's betrayal. And you don't get to tell me how to live with his mistakes. Her eyes burned into mine, but I didn't flinch. For the first time in my life I saw her falter. Her hand lowered slowly, her mouth working without sound. Get out, I said finally. My voice was steady, absolute. And don't come back until you learn that I am not your puppet. Margaret left, muttering curses under her breath, but the slam of the door sounded like victory in my chest. The morning of the procedure, Julia came with me. She didn't ask questions. She didn't lecture. She simply sat beside me in the waiting room, her hand wrapped around mine, her thumb brushing circles over my knuckles. You're not alone, she whispered. And for the first time I believed her. The clinic was quiet, sterile, with soft music playing faintly to mask the silence. When the nurse called my name, Julia squeezed my hand once more. Breathe, she murmured. And when you're done we'll get pancakes. Your treat. I managed a weak laugh before following the nurse inside. The procedure itself was clinical, efficient. I closed my eyes, breathing slowly, focusing on the beeping monitor instead of the ache in my chest. It wasn't easy. It wasn't painless. But when it was over, I felt lighter. Not because I celebrated the loss, but because I had chosen. For once, the decision was mine. When I returned to the waiting room, Julia stood and wrapped me in a hug that was warmer than any comfort Ryan had ever given me. You did what you needed to do, she said firmly. Don't you dare second-guess it. But Ryan didn't give up without one final act. That night he stood outside my apartment again. I nearly didn't open the door when I saw his silhouette through the peephole, but something in me wanted closure. He looked worse than before, hollow-eyed, his clothes disheveled, his face drawn tight with grief. It's done, isn't it? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. He pressed his palms together, his body shaking. Do you really feel nothing, Claire? Not for me. Not for what we had. Not even for the child. I held his gaze, my heart steady. Once I loved you more than myself. But now I feel nothing. The words fell heavy between us. His face twisted as though I'd just gutted him. He turned slowly, stumbling down the hall like a man twice his age. His shadow disappeared around the corner and I knew he wouldn't be back. I closed the door. This time it wasn't just wood and metal shutting. It was every tether, every chain, every shred of a love that had already rotted. I leaned against the door, exhaling deeply. For the first time, the silence in my apartment wasn't loneliness. It was peace. Ryan Parker was no longer my burden. And from that moment on, neither was the ghost of the life we almost built together. The first thing I noticed about the new city was the silence. Not the absence of sound, but the difference in it. The streets here hummed with a slower rhythm than the frantic rush of downtown. The air smelled of coffee and pine instead of car exhaust. Even my apartment felt different. Smaller, humbler, but undeniably mine. I'd transferred to the new office branch 3 weeks earlier, a move that had been met with arched brows and whispered gossip from co-workers. Some thought I was running away. Maybe I was. But if so, it wasn't from Ryan. It was from the woman I used to be. In this city, no one knew me as Ryan Parker's fiancée. No one whispered about group chat scandals or hospital chaos. I was simply Claire Dawson, an associate with sharp ideas and a reputation for precision. And for once that was enough. The days blurred into a new rhythm. Morning jogs by the river trail. Afternoon coffees with Julia, who made the trip on weekends just to drag me to little shops and thrift stores. Late nights at the office, not because I had to, but because I wanted to, because the work felt like mine, no longer tangled with Ryan's shadow. I signed up for pottery again, this time determined not to create clay pancakes. My first bowl still wobbled, but I didn't care. I laughed when it collapsed in the kiln, the sound echoing free and unburdened. For the first time in years, I was living not for someone else's expectations, not for a man's promises, not for a family's demands, but for myself. New Year's Eve crept in quietly. While the city prepared for fireworks and countdowns, I set a small hot pot on my table, steam rising in lazy spirals. I dropped in vegetables, thin slices of beef, dumplings that stuck slightly together. It wasn't a glamorous meal. No champagne flutes, no glittering dresses. Just me, chopsticks, and a bubbling pot. And yet, as I sat cross-legged on the couch eating in silence, I realized something startling. I wasn't lonely. For years I had equated solitude with emptiness. I had dreaded nights alone, filling them with Ryan's calls, his visits, his orbit. But now the quiet felt like freedom. The only sound was the bubbling broth, the faint crackle of fireworks in the distance. I set my chopsticks down and smiled. Near midnight I pulled on my coat and stepped onto the balcony. Snowflakes drifted from the sky, tiny sparks catching in the glow of street lamps. I tilted my head back, letting them kiss my cheeks, melt against my lashes. It had been years since I'd seen snow. Somehow it felt like the world was offering me a clean slate, a baptism in white. The city streets stretched quiet and endless beneath me. And for the first time I wasn't afraid of the unknown. Then I saw it. Parked just across the street, half hidden under a layer of fresh snow, was a car I knew too well. Ryan's. Even after everything, after the scandal, the hospital, the abortion, the final goodbye, he still lingered like a ghost, orbiting me as though proximity might tether me back to him. Once the sight would have undone me. Once I would have trembled, torn between love and rage, yearning and disgust. But now I felt nothing. Just a calm indifference, like looking at an old scar that no longer ached. I wondered if he sat inside, watching me, hoping for a flicker of the woman who once loved him so fiercely. So he was wasting his time. That woman was gone. I stayed on the balcony a moment longer, breathing in the cold air, watching the snow settle into clean white blankets over streets and cars and rooftops. And I thought about him. About how, once upon a time, Ryan Parker had pursued me like I was the axis of his world. How he had shown up with flowers, waited outside my classes, whispered promises under starlit skies. And how I had believed him. Blindly. Completely. But belief is not truth. Love is not enough. And I was no longer that naive girl willing to sacrifice herself on the altar of his ambition. The fireworks began then, sudden bursts of red and gold lighting the sky. I leaned against the railing, my breath fogging in the air, the colors reflecting in my eyes. 29 years old. I had lost, I had bled, I had broken. But I had also risen. And standing there in the snow, I made myself a promise. A vow more binding than any ring Ryan had ever slipped on my finger. From this day forward I would only love one person with all my heart. Myself. I turned back inside, sliding the balcony door shut, leaving Ryan's car and all its ghosts out in the snow. The clock struck midnight. And with it my new life began. The end.